What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. Geeky guy here, and today it's going to be a bit of a special video. So today I'll be interviewing the Malaysian national champion. So we have Hua here. So he's here to actually give us some insights on his deck building and things like that. But before that, Hua, how are you? Thank you for actually joining this interview, agreeing to do this.
I'm good. Thanks for having me over, Salah. Right, let's get to it.
Okay, so Hua, how did you get started into Flesh and Blood Tcg? So I've already know your story, but the viewers might want to know this. How did you get started?
Right, so I got dragged into the game basically. One day, one of my playmates, Davin, he wanted to scratch a card game itch. He found a game online through the official website.
Yep.
Then he dragged me and Joanne to an armory. We watched 1 day's worth of army, and then we were just hooked. We basically went in.
That's all. That's always the story. Started with 1 pack and then hooked. And now he's the 3 packs. In this case, it was 3 packs. So, now we'll talk a bit about the nationals and the preparation beforehand. So, how was the preparation like? How long before the national you started with your preparation?
Started a bit slow, but we were just testing things out. Aria just came out, and we weren't too sure what was going to be good. But 2 weeks right before nationals, there was Cincinnati calling, and then there was the UK nationals, right? At Cincinnati, I think it was Chris Higashi. He piloted a Lightning Briar deck that got featured, and I think what we found was that this deck is really strong, and it didn't look too difficult to pilot. It seemed like the amount of effort that you put in versus the amount of reward that you can get out of it is really, really good. So we started testing that, but it wasn't until UK nationals when we realized everybody's going to play this deck. This deck is going to be really, really strong. How do we deal with this deck? And that's when we decided, we start really, really training for it. Whether we are playing Briar or playing against Briar, just trying to figure out what's good into it, what's bad into it. Are we going to play the Briar? How do we do it? Yeah. And I guess in our testing, we found that a lot of decks couldn't really deal with it properly.
Yep.
So that was basically it. Personally, I wasn't too comfortable playing Briar. We found that Ice Lexi was really good into it, but I wasn't comfortable with Ice Lexi enough. I'd been playing too much Lightning Lexi right before Nationals. So I just went with comfort pick.
Which is Dash.
In this case. Yeah.
So, when was the moment that you thought that, okay, Dash is going to be my hero for this national? Is it a day before? Is it a few days before? Or is it during? So there's a bunch of play testing and then you tested with the guys and then you found out, okay, Dash is the one. How many days was it before?
So I actually brought 3 decks to nationals. I brought my Katsu deck, I brought Dash, I brought Ice Lexi. Right until deck registration, I was still figuring out which one to go with, but I just decided to go with comfort pick Dash because I just thought it was fitting that I bring the deck I won with at Road to Nationals last year to this year's Nationals.
Yeah.
I wasn't too comfortable with every other thing, and I didn't know what the playfield was going to look like, so I just wanted to be most comfortable with what I brought to Nationals. Yeah.
So you see, guys, even the champions went with the comfort pick. So when in doubt, just go for your comfort heroes. So Hua, when on that day, what was your confidence level during the first day of nationals, during the registration? So how do you think, looking at the other players, what do you feel like? How were you going to fare against all the different heroes that are here in Malaysia?
I wasn't feeling too comfortable. I'm going to be honest. Like Dash is in a rough spot. She doesn't have a very good matchup into Briar, and we expected quite a lot of Lightning Briars. But she does decently well into Warrior, she does decently well into Guardian. I would say those are her favorite matchups, and the rest are more skill-based matchups. Yeah, I wasn't feeling too comfortable going into it because Briar.
So going into the nationals, what was your first match like, and who was it against? I mean, which hero was it against?
It was against Hafiz, the legend himself, the man who went to calling on representing Malaysia. He was on Warrior. I should have won that game, but I made a few mistakes here and there. Came down to one life, and just one off a shot. I was a little bit demotivated, but can't think too much about.
Alright.
Okay, just gotta focus on the next games and
Yeah, correct. So, how was the result during the first game?
first day, 3-2.
3-2. So, Hua ended up 3-2 on the first day. Then going to the second day, which is draft.
Right?
Yeah. So, is this something you are comfortable with drafting?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
In Malaysia, we've had so little draft experience. Yeah, we just we practiced a little for draft, but we're not super comfortable going into nationals with draft.
Yeah. Okay. So coming into draft and during the second day, you were thinking that I have to get 3 wins.
Yeah.
Right. So is there any particular strategy in your mind before going to the draft itself? Is there any specific hero you were aiming for, or was it something happened during the pack openings and then picking the cards? How was it like?
I didn't tunnel into any one hero. I just felt like with Arya draft, you needed to be more open because it's 3 heroes, 3 elements. If you tunnel too hard into one hero, you might get shafted with the rest of your draft. So what I did was I tried to stay open as long as I could. I think it was right until pick 6 when I just decided, you know what? I think there's only one other Obin player on the table. I can probably draft a pretty good Obin. And that's what I went with.
And on your table, is everyone focusing on Briar? Is Briar the main pick? Based on the cards that were passed around.
I felt like a lot of people were taking Lightning. Lightning was disappearing. I somehow Earth just kept coming to me, so Earth Odin is pretty good. So, yeah.
So that makes sense, right?
A lot of lightning went around. When it didn't go around, it got snatched up, and true enough, a lot of Lexi players, a lot of Riot players, and only 2 Odins on the field. I was the Earth Odin, Juan was the Ice Odin.
Yeah. So draft is, I think, it's something that not many people are familiar with because usually we play Classic Constructed or Blitz. So what are the tips that you would give to new players that wanted to try draft? Because as seen in Malaysia, it is part of the nationals and it counts into the overall score. So this is something they might want to learn about. So what tips would you give it to them?
Tips for draft. I'm not too experienced with draft, but I listened to a primer that Matt Rogers released right before our nationals, and I thought it was really helpful. Basically, you want to keep yourself open as long as you can, and just read the signs on the game. It's a very hard thing to do. It's just a really, really hard thing to do, but you just gotta do it. You just gotta play, just so that you know who's picking what.
That's pretty nice. So during the draft, you actually went 3-0.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So that's how I actually got into the top 8.
Snuck into
the top 8.
11.
That's how he would put it. But I would say he got into comfortably into top 8 because it's not easy to get 3-0 in the draft. As the cards are limited, as the pool are limited. Even the players are inexperienced in draft, especially in Malaysia. So I guess that's it for the introductory part. Now we'll go into the deck build, which is the spicy one. We're going to take a look at Hua's deck and see what's his thoughts and his sideboarding against the different heroes. So let's do that. Alright guys, so now Hua has spread out his deck here. So we're going to see what his dash build is consist of, and we're going to go through one by one. So I guess we'll start with the equipment.
Start with the equipment.
Yeah.
So this is a typical mid-range list. Obviously, we're playing dash. We're going with tackle plasma pistol, and we're always starting with induction chamber. Helmet, chest, and legs are always going to be the 3 same equipment. We've got Arcanite Skullcap, Tackle Foundry Heart, and the Achilles Accelerator. You've got some choices in the gloves. Glove slot is the most flexible because they are not the best, but most of the time you'll be playing with the Goliath Gauntlets, and if you run into a brute, you have a Gambler's Glove. So this is more of like a meta choice. If you know your locals have a lot more brutes, then this is what you want to bring. Iron Rod Gauntlet is a personal preference. I really like it into Katsu. I really like it into Bravo and Dorinthia, anything that has some nasty on hit effects, having a bit of more armor never hurts. Then come down to the items. You'll see that in total I only play 4 items, 2 induction chambers and 2 purifiers. I don't play the 5th and 6th copy of the items because I found that most games you'll never need to get all of the items out anyway. By the time you get the 4th one, it's more than enough to close out the game, right? So we'll move on to the rest of the deck. We've got 9 zipper hits, 9 zeros, and a whole bunch of blues. These are like, and 3 sparkle genius. These are like the core of the deck, right, Salam?
Yep.
This is the core of the deck. You are almost never taking out any of these cards from the deck, so they'll come out to about close to 40 cards. And we've got 2 yellow throttles in here as well. And then these are the sideboard cards. So depending on your matchup, then you'll bring in what you need for that specific matchup. We'll go over some of these 6 power cards first. I have like 8 3 Command and Conquers, 3 red throttles, 2 max velocities. This is your Prism hate package. Most of the time you bring every single one of these copies against Prism.
Yep.
I opted not to go with a 3rd copy of max velocity because 8 cards to hate out the heralds I found more than enough. And then you have your high octane package here. If your game plan is going to be playing high octane, these are the cards that you bring in. Otherwise, if your game plan is not to high octane someone, then these are the cards you take out. Right, and then you have your defense reaction package, or the 3-0 cost defense reactions from Fate and Sync, and 4 unmovables. Right.
Yep. So for the yellow unmovable here, what's this about?
Right. The yellow unmovable is basically my answer to Earthbriar. What I found is that Earthbriar just does a whole bunch of damage, and my solution to that was just to have a lot more defense reactions in the deck so that I can actually reduce the amount of damage that I take on her larger turns. So I found that the yellow unmovables help a little bit in that. And they're also really good into warrior and gun as well, which you're basically increasing the chances against those decks.
Have you ever, I think you might consider this, maybe pitching this out for the library? I mean, if that does ever happen.
And that's the same reason why there's the 2 yellow throttles as well. These are really, really good against Prism. If she gets out an early library, having more copies of yellow cards in your deck will help you destroy a library.
So regarding Prism, let's just talk about Prism for a bit. So you do have a bunch of 6 powers, I mean more than that, in order to destroy those heralds.
Yep.
So against Prism, do you still play the defense reaction, or do you go for the high octane?
So against Prism, I found that you bring these in, you bring this package in. Maybe not every single one, maybe not every single tome, but you most certainly do not need most of these defense reactions because these Prism hate cards, they function the same like a defense reaction. You have these cards in your deck because you're using it to block. Right? It's exactly the same like having a defense reaction. So I found that you don't really want to draw defense reactions against Prism.
So I guess that's it for the deck. Is there any tips or tricks that you want to share to the new, maybe new aspiring Dash players that want to bring their decks to the nationals, upcoming nationals and things like that?
I think the deck needs, you need to spend a little bit of time just get well practiced with the deck. A lot of it is just going to come from practice, just to know how much resources you need to pitch to carry out a turn. And these values will change throughout the game, right? Depending on how many counters that you've kept on all of the items. That's something nobody can really teach you. You just need to play and get a feel for, and the more familiar you are with that, then the better you'll do. Because you'll probably spend less time thinking about how much resources you need in the next turn.
So you heard it here, guys. Practice makes perfect. So that's it from us. Thank you very much, for this interview. I would like to also thank Invictus Forge to actually providing us with the venue to do the video itself. I would also like to thank No Win No Sleep which is our team of competitive FAB players. If you want to know more details on them, I'll be linking their Facebook page down in the description below. Do check them out. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much it. Well, any last words you want to add?
That's it.
Thanks
for having me, Salam.
So thank you very much, guys, for watching. Do like, subscribe, or even share this video. See you guys in the next one. Bye.